So if you read most books on depression, they'll usually list about 13 to 15 symptoms. And they'll ask you, can you tick 5 of them or 6 of them? So it's not just one thing, it's more than one thing. It's usually a syndrome, a collection of symptoms. And it's not just, I feel this for a day or two. It's much deeper and longer than that. Usually the books will say for a minimum of 2 weeks. Personally, I think it's better to go somewhere like 3 or 4 weeks before you really begin to have the alarm bells sounding. But if you were to take these 13 and make them, put them into 4 simpler categories, these would be the categories that I would encourage you to look at when you're talking with someone you think might be depressed. The first is their feelings, of course. It's really a disease, you might say, of the subjective. The feelings have gone wrong. So, for example, a woman will usually feel overwhelming sadness, crying uncontrollably, illogically, unreasonably, unprovokedly. Just, why are you crying, honey? I don't know. I'm just crying. Just let me cry. For a man, the feelings, there can be sadness, yes. But the most classic symptom, often unrecognized, is anger. That's where men usually manifest depression. They don't tend to bawl. They can, but most men usually, it's an irrational irritability, an aggressiveness, bad temper. That's the kind of thing that you really begin to worry about when you see it as a pattern in a man's life. Feelings of hopelessness, worthlessness, no value, just a burden to other people. There's really no point in my existence. It would be better if I wasn't here. Phrases like that in terms of feelings. The second area is thoughts. So you want to ask people about how they're thinking. And what you're looking for here is negativity, extreme negativity. In the little book I wrote, I identified 10 false thought patterns, which really are 10 ways that negative thinking is manifested. Now, if you're like me, you'll read that and you'll think, I'm depressed. I think like that. And, a lot of us do. And it's very challenging when you're faced with it. You see how negative a thought pattern you can get into, your default thinking, often ingrained from very young age, often adopted from our parents or our cultural background, sometimes the result of a very legalistic type of preaching as well, very, high standards, perfectionism, never quite reaching high enough. So it develops this, I'm not good enough, I'm worthless, I'm useless, I have no value. One thing goes wrong and you just write yourself off as a total disaster. You can look at, a 95% exam score and all you can think about is the 5% you didn't get. That kind of thing. Lots of, that's me. But when that becomes a pattern, it's our instinct, our default, over time that is incredibly depressing. And it pulls down the emotions with it. And it interplays, sadness and anger makes us think negatively. Negativity makes us feel sad and angry. It's all very interconnected. And then the third area is the body. My wife will tell you, and any doctor will tell you, that a large number of people that come in to see her as a doctor have vague, generalized symptoms that no amount of testing is going to diagnose. And there's this vain, pointless search, often for years, for the virus, for the bacteria, for the whatever. And actually, what's the problem is depression. That has begun either in the thoughts or in the feelings, but eventually that manifests itself in the body. The psalmist talks about this as well in Psalm 32. How his bones waxed old, how he dried up, that he could hardly sleep and things like that. It's the body is affected by our thoughts and our feelings. You know, people with generalized, vague, undiagnosable pain, then you want to start probing a bit. You know, that this may not be a physical problem. This is a physical problem, but that might not be the cause of this. Is there unresolved guilt? Is there unresolved anger? Is there a grief that's not been properly mourned, and so on? Then the fourth area is behavior. You're wanting to look at, okay, that's their feelings, that's their thinking, this is their body. What's this resulting in terms of action? And often you'll find a depressed person stops doing the things that are healthy for them and starts doing things that are unhealthy for them. They get into this vicious circle, this downward cycle that begins to pervade the whole of life. Again, it looks so illogical and irrational to the outsider, but to the person in it, it just feels very natural, very normal not to do the things you don't feel like doing, and to do the things that at least give you some kind of temporary relief. So just to try and keep it as simple as you can keep it, these four areas you want to be looking for these symptoms in: feelings, thoughts, body, behavior.